Imagine yourself going out to the garage, getting in the car behind the wheel, adjusting the steering wheel, adjusting your seat, putting on your seat belt. But before you back out of the driveway, you take a blindfold and place it over your eyes. Would anyone really do this, you ask? Well, you'd say, of course not. But in fact, the majority of us do this every time we use our cell phones when we're behind the wheel. When a person texts and drives, it's like driving more than the length of a football field blindfolded. As a certified child passenger safety technician for the past 11 years, I've educated parents, students, and others on safe driving and safe riding. With the ever-increasing use of cell phones, distracted driving is an issue that's come to the forefront for many of us who are involved with trying to reduce injuries and fatalities on the roadway. Distracted driving has reached epidemic proportions. It's a killer that needs to be stopped. All of us have it in our power to stop driving distracted and encourage others to attend to the full-time job of driving. And in doing so, we can help save lives on our roadways. In the next minutes, I'm going to define distracted driving, tell you why cell phone use while driving needs to be stopped, and finally ask your help in eliminating this killer from our roadways. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, called NHTSA, defines distracted driving as any non-driving activity a person engages in it that has the potential to distract him or her from the primary task of driving and increase the risk of crashing. Distracted driving is an epidemic that's growing and killing thousands on our roadways every year. The most dangerous driving distraction is talking on the cell phone and texting on the cell phone. Distracted driving affects us in 3 different ways: visually, taking our eyes off the road; manually, taking our hands off the steering wheel; and cognitively, taking our mind off of what we're doing in front of us. Texting is the most alarming distracted driving because it involves all 3 of those. Let's hear how deadly distracted driving is from NHTSA. 20% of injury crashes in 2009 involved reports of distracted driving. 18% of those involved use of a cell phone. Expressing this in actual numbers, in 2009, 5,474 people were killed in the U.S. because of distracted driving, and almost 500,000 people were injured because of motor vehicle crashes involving distracted driving. The numbers are growing too. 10% in 2005, up to 16% in 2009 are the fatalities that were due to distracted driving. Drivers who use handheld devices are 4 times as likely to get into a crash serious enough to injure themselves. Using a cell phone while driving, whether it's handheld or whether it's hands-free, delays a driver's reaction time the same as if he had a blood alcohol level of 0.08 in his system. The under age 20 group are very vulnerable to distracted driving. They have the highest proportion of distracted drivers involved in fatal crashes. That's 16%. CAR, Alliance for Safer Teen Driving, tells us that 33% of all teen crashes involve cell phone distraction. Now, how can we stop these needless crashes? How can we stop this killer? Let's start by reviewing Nebraska's law. Nebraska is one of 35 states that has a ban on texting for all drivers, but unfortunately, it's only a secondary law. That means that a driver can only be cited for texting if he's been pulled over for another reason. Nebraska's under age 18 law bans the use of cell phones, both handheld and hands-free, for all of those under age 18, but again, it's just a secondary law. The law is not good enough, and that's why the solution begins with each one of us. Having the willpower, having the self-control to put down our cell phones while we're driving. And after doing that, what we want to do is encourage others to do the same. Sign a pledge sheet that says you will not use your cell phone or other electronic devices while you're driving. Recommendations from AAA include the following. Recognize that driving is a full-time job. Do not compose, send, or read text messages while you're driving. If you have to use your phone, stop and pull over to a safe place. Or ask a passenger to use your cell phone for you and to speak in your place. Second, intervention and education with others is needed, especially with our teens. There are peer-to-peer programs that are very successful that teens can join. One is called NOYS, N-O-Y-S, that's National Organization for Youth Safety, or SADD, S-A-D-D, that's Students Against Destructive Decisions. Through those organizations, students can sponsor presentations, thumb pledges, enter rap and PSA contests, hand out cell phone condoms, that's a PVC bag that holds your cell phone while you're driving, and they can distribute thumb rings with a text message that says on them, "Texting kills," TXTGKLLS. Now there's some arguments out there, and you might think that having hands-free devices might be safer than cell phone use, but actually there are over 30 independent studies that have shown that the hands-free devices do not reduce crashes caused by cell phone use. According to CAR, Alliance for Safer Teen Driving. This is because of a condition called inattentive blindness. When you're talking on the phone, even if it is hands-free, you create a mental image in your mind of the person on the other end of the line. Your mind is what you're discussing with them, is on that. You're listening to that person and you're formulating answers to that person's questions. You are mentally with the person you're conversing with, and your awareness of what's going on around you is very much decreased. When drivers say, "I never saw the red light, I never saw that car in front of me," they are correct. Their mind never registered what was actually going on right in front of them. Also, another argument is, what's the difference between talking on the cell phone with someone or talking with the passengers in my car? According to Get There, Your Guide to Traffic Safety 2010, tells us that a passenger that is in your car can be your second set of eyes. When you're talking with them, they can help alert you to what's going on in front of you. They can stop talking, or they can say, "Hey, look what's in front of you." The cell phone person that you're talking to can't do that for you. As we plan to work together to stop cell phone use while driving, I want to remind you that there's a good example of why interventions in education work. Attitudes can be changed. Results of a survey students and faculty of Doniphan Trumbull High School took prove that intervention and education work. Attitudes towards behaviors that can change, even with our most vulnerable population, our teens. The students answered a survey before and after a February 2011 presentation by Rob Reynolds of CAR, Alliance for Safer Teen Driving. Rob Reynolds' topic was distracted driving, but his message was not just a simple one of discouraging teens' use. His was a plea to the students to put down their phone to save lives and the lives of others. His plea was a personal one. His 16-year-old daughter, Katie, was killed in 2007 by another 16-year-old who was severely distracted, who ran a red light, who broadsided Katie's car and killed Katie. After hearing Rob's presentation, 74% of the students answered it was unlikely or very unlikely that they will text and drive. This compares to 51% or 51% before they heard his message. After hearing Rob's presentation, 44% of the students answered they were very unlikely to use a cell phone while driving. And this is up from 13% before they heard his message. Parents are strong influencers of teens' risky behavior, according to Rob. 83% of the students answered that sometimes or definitely they see their parents using cell phones while driving. After they heard Rob's message, 32% of the students answered that they are very likely or likely to ask an adult to not use their cell phone while they're driving. This increased from 14% before Rob spoke. I have told you how distracting cell phone use can be while you're driving. I've told you how cell phone use plus driving equals death. I have told you that the only answer to reverse this equation is you. Stopping this killer is so simple. The solution lies right in the palms of our hands. We want to open our hands. We want to put down our cell phones while we're driving. Stir up the willpower, resist using the phone while driving, and encourage others to do the same. And we will save lives. The Grand Island Independent printed a quote from Rob Reynolds during his presentation to Donovan Trumbull students. Here's what Rob says. Your car is not an online chat room. It is not a social room. It is not to entertain. It's to get you from one place to another. Remember, lives are at stake each time you take the road.